What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, guys, what we're going to be doing is a guide on how to improve at Fortnite fast in Chapter 3 Season 2. With this season, Epic really pulled out all the stops and dropped an absolute ton of changes, but this video should help you get on the right track and become insane at the game, even with a complicated meta and players that are improving non-stop. Before we get into it, though, be sure to drop a like if this video helps you out, subscribe if you're new and want to see more, and consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop if you want to help your boy out a bit extra. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Also, guys, if you notice my voice sounds a little bit different, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it'll get better soon. It's just all weird, but hopefully that's not too big of an issue. So the first key to improving at Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2 is to master the various changes to the meta. If you're not familiar with them yet, I'm gonna run through a few of them now. Starting off, Epic added 3 new types of movement, which are sprinting, mantling, and shoulder bashing. Sprinting is a super simple one. Basically, Epic added a new form of running that's extra fast, but it removes your character's weapon out of your hand. So while you do move super fast, you're also way more exposed. Although I haven't really experimented with this too much yet, I do feel like it's a super useful mechanic when it comes to rotations, and really helpful for rotations when you don't have other forms of mobility. Mantling is the next movement change, and it basically allows you to climb over a wall or object if your character is near the top. And honestly, I was pretty hesitant when I first saw this mechanic, but it's actually super useful and I'm really glad they added it. For example, if you're in endgame with low materials, you can literally just jump around and make your way around, or you can even use it in a build fight if someone's like a layer or two above you and you need to reach them. It's a super versatile mechanic and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how people use it. And lastly, we've got shoulder bashing, which basically means that when you're using the new sprint mechanic and you walk into a door, you're basically just going to bash it open instead of having to slow down to open it. It's really nothing that crazy, but I guess it's a good quality of life thing. It's pretty cool to look at. As well as the movement changes, the loot pool also saw some dramatic changes this season. A bunch of items and weapons were unvaulted, most of them being in changed states. You've got the thermal AR, the drum shotgun, the revolver, the C4, the shockwave grenades, as well as some new exotic weapons being unvaulted. And as a side note, at the time of making this video, C4 and shockwaves aren't in competitive modes like arena and tournaments. As well as that, the majority of the loot pool from the previous season has remained in place, but a few items like the heavy shotgun, machine pistol, and a couple of others were removed. And lastly, you've got a couple of new items, which are the combat SMG, the striker burst rifle, the cowcatcher car attachments, repair torches, even tanks, and probably a few more that I haven't seen yet. Finally, guys, just to list off a couple of other little changes if you're interested. Obviously, the map has changed quite a bit with the IO blimps that are over various POIs, and Storm Surge has been adjusted from dealing damage every 5 seconds to every 10 seconds. And of course, the one that everybody's talking about, if you're watching this in the first 9 days of the season, building is disabled in public matches, but for the sake of the video, we're really not going to be worrying about that since building remains in competitive modes, and obviously it's only going to remain that way in public matches for a little bit, or at least that's kind of the assumption right now, and that's what Epic said. Overall though, I'd say the main changes this season were definitely the movement changes, the weapon vaultings, unvaultings, and additions, as well as the IO blimps, which are obviously going to impact gameplay a fair amount. So with that said, a lot has changed this season, and the biggest piece of advice I can give you all when it comes to adapting to the meta is to watch and play as much as you can. As much as I want to give you guys some super fancy tips as to how you can master the changes super fast, it's ultimately just going to come down to experience and knowledge. So get into some arena, watch some Twitch streams and YouTube videos, maybe watch a couple of Teckoh videos, and really just try to absorb as much knowledge as possible relating to this meta if you're trying to learn it. And as a result, you should be able to adapt and improve much faster. So with that said, guys, now that we've gone over some of the super specific stuff that applies to Chapter 3 Season 2 in particular, for this next section of the video, I'm basically just going to be firing off some general tips that I've learned as to how you can maximize your improvement in this season. Starting off, the biggest key to improvement in just about any season, and this season is no different, is arena. As you may know, I talk about arena in just about every single improvement video I make, but that's for good reason. In arena, you're up against players that are usually fairly skilled at the game. Obviously, you have siphon materials and HP, and arguably the most important of all, at least for the first 9 days of the season, is that you can actually build. And of course, as is always the case when there's a new meta or changes to the game, it's definitely worth watching back your game, specifically in replay mode. That way you can VOD review and find areas to improve at the game. And by doing that, you're going to be able to figure out your strengths and weaknesses and work on them, and thus improve your biggest issues, leading to the most overall improvement in game. So as with any other season, jump in arena, do some VOD reviews, you know the drill. Second up for this section, I want to talk a bit about piece control. Now, obviously we all know about piece control by now, but the thing is, most people still don't know how to apply it properly despite how popular it is. And especially with the new movement mechanics in the game, it's more important than ever to learn how to use piece control properly and take full advantage of all the tools given to you in game. So I really recommend that you guys experiment with some piece control drills and also focus on using the mantling mechanic while you're doing it. I already know that this mantling mechanic is going to be a massive tool for fighting, so get used to it and get ahead while you're able to. If you are struggling struggling with piece control, then I'm going to put up 2 codes on screen to maps that I really recommend you use. On the top is the classic Raider piece control map, which has a ton of different scenarios to improve it. And on the bottom is Tito's realistic edit and piece control map, which has an absolute ton of unique editing and piece control scenarios as well. The great thing is these maps have set scenarios, but there also are a ton of scenarios in these maps where you can implement mantling in different ways and improve while using it. So I definitely recommend you hop in and give that a try. Hopefully those help you guys out, because getting those piece control skills up is going to be a massive help if you're trying to improve in this season, especially if you're at a more beginner to intermediate level. On to my next tip though, and this one's going to apply to pretty much anyone who uses creative to practice their mechanics and overall skill, and that's to always use updated weapons. Now obviously guys, it's super fun to use pump shotguns and all that when you're trying to practice, but that really just isn't realistic, since obviously there's an entire new loophole for not only this season but chapter 3 as a whole. And I find that so many players are still struggling to adapt, even though the chapter has been out for I think 3 or 4 months by now, and we're in season 2 now. So honestly guys, just try to be mindful about which weapons you're using and try to focus on using weapons that are actually in the game right now. It's perfectly reasonable to have some fun and mess around once in a while, but try to make sure your practice is also realistic whenever it's possible if you're trying to maximize your improvement. And kind of building upon the last tip of using weapons that are in the game, another thing to keep in mind is using a variety of weapons as well. There are tons of options for weapons in this season. Even for shotguns alone, you've got the drum shotgun, the auto shotgun, and the striker. You've also got like 2 or 3 weapons from pretty much every single category, like ARs, SMG, and all sorts of other stuff. There are so many different loadouts and situations that you could run into this season, and when it comes down to it, you're probably going to be forced to use weapons that you don't prefer at some point in time. So instead of just avoiding the weapons you think are underpowered or don't prefer using, try to pick them up and practice with them even when it's difficult. And by doing that, you're actually going to be able to adapt to all the different items and be prepared for any situation. The last thing you want to do, for example, is only pick up striker pumps and then run into an early game in a tournament or something like that where you only have a drum shotgun and end up dying because you can't use it properly. So overall guys, make sure that you're varying up which weapons you use, and that should help you out a lot. Finally guys, getting into my last tip for this video when it comes to improving at Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2, and that's simply going to be patience and consistency. Honestly guys, a lot of people like to overcomplicate things and act like getting better at Fortnite is some crazy task that requires insane talent. And while the game definitely isn't easy to get good at, the process is actually pretty simple. Find effective practice methods that you enjoy doing and repeat them over and over. That's basically all you have to do. At the same time, find mistakes in your gameplay and work to improve on them. But overall, the big keys to getting insane at this game are to practice on a consistent basis and be patient and really recognize that you're not going to magically wake up and be insane at the game. But with that said, if you do practice on a consistent basis, you do the right things to improve, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be improving at the game. But with all that said guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to improve fast in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2. Hopefully this video helped you out and gave you some good ideas as to how you can maximize your improvement this season and for future seasons as well. If this video helped you out, be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more tips and tricks content just like this in the future. And as well as that, if you'd like to show some extra support, then feel free to use code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's 100% free and it really does help your boy out a ton. And finally guys, let me know down in the comments what types of videos you all want to see this season. With all that said though, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.